Long have we waited. Now we crocodile. No, I didn't rhyme, but there's my intro for today, guys. Welcome back to another One Piece video, and we finally got the deck profile for Purple Crocodile. Now, I wanted to showcase the deck profile for the updated list, which was the same list that, if you guys have been looking out on the internet, Jonathan Rodriguez piloted to first place at the PBG Case Tournament event. Congratulations to him. I know he's put a lot of sweat and tears with other players on his team as well as myself, and have been able to create what I believe is a disgustingly defensive control deck that just absolutely tore me apart in the tournament. Later on this week, I'll have a deck profile about my Zoro list that did make it to top 8. My only loss the entire tournament was this deck. I lost to him in Swiss, and I lost to him in top 8. This deck absolutely destroyed my aggro deck. It does well into mid-range decks, and it seems like when we were talking, the only struggle that this deck may have, and where it's still unsolved, is how we deal with purple and how we deal with green. So without further ado, let's get to this deck. I'm going to split it into two separate ways. I'm going to keep Crocodile, trying to keep him in the center, and I'll start with one with the blue, and then I'll go with the purple. Starting off with the blue characters, we're off to 4 of the 1-cost blocker. Now, as the more that I talk about the 1-cost blockers, the more that it's just they're too easy to fit into whatever deck. You can't just say that, you know, for that one investment, it's good versus aggro, versus big decks where they're trying to come at you with these big minions. You want to control your board. They just do it all. The one Dawn doesn't really cost you anything. You can make a big turn, a big swing turn, and then follow it up with a one law at the end, and you just almost capitalize on the fact that they can't get around it. They now have to deal with an extra point of interaction that they didn't have before. So it protects your big characters, it protects your early game, and it just extends the game more than ever. 1-cost bloggers, super OP in my opinion, and the more and more I play this game, the more I really do just enjoy them and putting them in my deck. I try to fit them at maximum capacity as much as I can. Then off to one of the weirder cards. We have Miss Doublefinger. Now, I know a lot of people ask themselves when they saw the list, if you've seen the list, why 2 Miss Doublefinger? And I got the answer for you. We need something that can attack early, right? We need something that can apply pressure. Oftentimes, what I noticed when I was playing the purple matchup, if you saw my video of Blue Crocodile against the purple Kaido, it's much easier when I have something that I can just turn sideways every turn. And Miss Doublefinger is a perfect card, a Baroque work character with 1k counter, 4k stat line that on KO draws a card. It fits all the criteria that you want it to do, because for a 1 Dawn investment, this card checks and creates interaction, while also if they clear it, it draws me a card, so I don't net any disadvantage. And it just allows me for that early game pressure with my leader 6, Miss Doublefinger 5, and I'm just constantly applying that pressure every single turn. And you're kind of afraid to going into her, because if you swing into her, you're not only giving me combo power, you're giving me spells, you're giving me my late game. It kind of just does it all. There was a point in time where we were playing this at 4, and as much as it feels really, really good to play this at 4 into the longer matchups, the grindier matchups, it just didn't meet the cut at the end of the day for the other matchups. And that's why I decided, or not I, but Jonathan decided to cut this down to just 2 Miss Doublefingers. But that is exactly why she's in the deck. It's just early game pressure that doesn't net you disadvantage, has combo power, and is Baroque work, so is technically searchable. Then off to another card that can gain us advantage. We have Mr. Boncre. Boncre, he can go ahead and search any Baroque work spell. So in this deck, sorry for the glare, in this deck, Boncre can go ahead and add you basically Desert Spada and Baroque work. Any of those 6 cards, it can go ahead and add. It is a 4 for 3, so it has the same stat line as Miss Doublefinger, but this one has a 2k counter. It also has an effect of when attacking to search a card. So Boncre in general, more often than not, because you only have 6 cards, it will whiff, so that effect is not usually used, but it can be used in succession. It is a searchable Baroque work character, which is also very important, a searchable 2k counter, which for this deck is pretty solid, because you put 1 Dawn under Crocodile, you have 4 cards, you activate Baroque work, you add the Boncre, and then you draw a card. So you're just keeping advantage and keeping combo power in hand. At some points in times, this guy can turn sideways, but usually he doesn't. He's mostly there for the 2k count, combo power, and I found that out very, very quickly. If you saw my video, this card whiffed almost every single time, and in that video, we were playing Baroque Works at 4, so we had 8 possible targets. So with 6, Very slim for this this lad to hit. And then this is gonna sound really troll, guys, but I only have one of Miss All Sunday. Obviously, you would play this card F4. But for whatever reason, I looked through my entire collection. Just do not have 4 of this card. I have 1 Miss All Sunday. But I cannot stress how absolutely brutal this card is. Just so that I can, if you've never read this card, let me just sum it up for you. It's a blocker. It's a 3-drop 1k blocker with 1k counter. It has the Baroque Work tagline, and the final piece of the piece de resistance on the card. On KO, if your leader is a Baroque Works leader, which Crocodile is a 7 Warlords of the Sea and a Baroque Work, she gets to add any event from your trash to your hand. And now I'm gonna look at this card one more time with both my eyes. With add 1 event from your trash to your hand. That does not specify blue. It does not specify purple. It does not specify Baroque Work. It can add any event to your hand, meaning that your very powerful Blast Breaths, your Love Beams, these cards that are just absolutely insane in terms of combo power, she just recycles them day after day. If you don't need the combo power, you can add the Baroque Work Searcher for a draw on your turn. But once you're adding Love Beam or Love Mellow over and over and over, you really start getting the cycle of plussing in this deck, because as you're playing your Crocodile, you're drawing 1 from Hero Power, you're drawing 1 from the Love, and you're going to 5, and then you draw for turn 6 each turn. So you're dropping your hand for a combo, and then you're going back to 6, and combo and 6, and that is when you just beat people. In this game, there isn't a lot of draw power, rightfully so, because draw power is a counter power. It is just the way that you maintain board state. It's the way that you deal damage. But this deck just draws on my turn, your turn, everybody's turn. It just continues that advantage, and that is how it beats you over the course of the attrition game. For the new addition to the deck, I believe Jonathan was adding 4 Teach. Now, Teach isn't a bad card. This is, again, a 4k character, so for a 1 Dawn investment, it can, again, become an attacker. It does deal with early aggression, and I think that's what he really was here for. They wanted to play Teach mostly because of the fact that Teach allows you to deal with some board states easier than other cards, and it feels really, really bad when your Nico Robin, your Okiku's, these very key 3-cost cards get bounced and stalled an entire turn. So Teach does a great job at that, but other than that, once it starts getting to the late game, Teach is just a 1k counter in hand is what I've noticed. Very rarely do you use it, even for swinging over blockers. But it definitely almost felt like it needed to be there. The more I discussed it with Jonathan, he wasn't really sure. This is one of the spots in the deck that is flexible, subject to change in the future. I don't really know how much this card is crucial to the deck, but it definitely served well, at least in the games that we played. Definitely brought me back many, many turns every single time that he cast this card. And for our last character, we have gotten 4 of El Crocodile. You can't play the Crocodile deck without Crocodile, and this card is a powerhouse. This card is insane. I misjudged how good he would be even in the Doflamingo deck. Just as a mono blue card, it is insane. It is a 7-drop 7k, so it has the 7/7 stat line. It doesn't have the 7 bounce like Flamingo for the 7/7/7, but it has the 1k counter to make up for it, and a very, very good set of effects. Banish is a very underrated mechanic in this game. As we banish cards, this deck, all it wants to do is control the board, beat you in hand advantage, control their side of the characters to maintain their board state, and then once they have beaten your board, they have ripped your hand apart, then they start swinging at life, and they can do it over the course of a couple turns with Crocodile going 8, banish, and you just lose advantage over and over. This deck, all it's trying to do is remove your hand, maintain a hand, and then just win over time. Very, very slow, very defensive, but man, did I underestimate how powerful this Crocodile is. Making your Desert Spot a 0, your Love Beams 1, and your Baroque Work also 0. It works on your turn and your opponent's turn, by the way. So if you just put 1 Dawn on him, you can Baroque Work for free and just continue to extend. You don't really lose that Dawn on your turn. Very, very powerful card. And then for the set of spells, we've got 2 of the Baroque Work. Searches all your Baroque Work pieces, as well as can be recycled by Miss All Sunday. It is a Baroque Work card, and it's just absolutely fantastic at getting to this very key piece of the deck, which are these 2 factors right here. It can add you combo power. It can add you, like board control. It can add you your pieces to finish the game. And let me tell you, Miss All Sunday, the more you see her, the more you're winning with this deck. This card is crucial for your strategy. Unbelievably unbalanced. Then we're playing 3 Love Mellow. Love Mellow. I think I've mentioned it enough. The card is absolutely crazy in this deck. Once you get to 4 cards in hand, you play the Love Love Mellow. It'll trigger to draw. It'll trigger the Crocodile. You dribble draw. We're at 5, and it's just mamma mia. Once you pair that up with the Desert Spada, you know exactly what's coming off the top of the deck. So you aren't surprised by what you're drawing. You're setting up your draws, and you're drawing into 2K counters, drawing into other spells. You're drawing into Blast Breaths, and you're just comboing out of literally everything. I think there's one game where I hit him for 16, and he comboed out of a 16 like nobody's business and maintained 4 cards in hand. The deck is unbelievably crazy. So that rounds up the blue side of the deck. Let's get to the purple side. So the blue is more for the control, consistency, and draw. And the purple is for board control, like dropping the big bombs, if you will. And starting with the first bomb, and one of the most underrated cards in the set is Jack. We're playing 4 Jacks, man. Jack is... holy moly. When attacking Dawn -1, your opponent discards a card from their hand. So this card basically just sits there. It is a 1k counter 3-drop 4, so its stat line is really solid. It's equivalent to the Jack from the starter deck. The thing is, this one, instead of like gaining you Dawn by other effects, you're Dawn -1ing for board control, for hand control. So the way this card works is you just have it standing there until your opponent starts turning creatures sideways. Just how often do you see Robin sideways? An Okiku, a Nami, things that are easy to remove. This goes into them, then Dawn -1 rips a card from their hand. You're just chucking cards out of the hand left and right and left and right. You can actually put Dawn and get this to hit a big creature like a mid-range Luffy, even swing over a Doflamingo, a Law, something like that. Because he has a 4k stat line, you can invest 3 to 4 into it and not feel too terrible, because this deck doesn't really use its Dawn very aggressively on its turn. It keeps its Dawn up for your opponent's turn. You then Dawn -1 to rip a card from their hand, and it just feels so good. Turn after turn after turn, minusing a Dawn and just ripping a card. Again, you don't want to do that too early in the game, but into the late game, in the late stages of the game, this card just nail in the coffin, guys. So absolutely powerful. And I'm just surprised that, you know, he's not at a higher price point. But if you've seen the market watch, you've seen my opinions on Jack. This card is crazy. And then for another hand ripper, we have got X-Drake. Now, X-Drake, besides being a hand ripper on play, so this can only happen once. This is something that can happen multiple times if you protect them, and you can protect really easily in this deck. X-Drake is also a 2k counter. So there are turns where this card's already on the board, rip a card from hand, X-Drake, rip a card from hand, and you're just losing everything. Then they're hitting your life with a banish, and you're just... I'm so sad. So there's not much to say about X-Drake. He's probably just the best 2k counter that Purple has. So he was involved in because of that. And besides the fact that he also adds hand advantage, and he's very playable at a 5/5 stat line. He has an attacking stat line, so he can turn sideways and deal with board states. For one of our other bombs, we've got Queen. I think by this time we all know how powerful structured that Queen is. 6 on a 5 that draws you cards and filters cards in your deck is absolutely unbalanced. You get to remove cards that you just don't need. Most often than not, I saw Jonathan dumping his Teaches, but this card just lets you cycle a couple more cards, get you to deeper into the deck for the cards that you really want to see. And once you see the engine, and I'm talking about the engine is legitimately Miss All Sunday plus Love Love Mellow, you literally just filter for the rest of your deck, and you can do whatever you want from there. And it just feels really hard to deal with once they've hit that critical mass. For our last top end on the purple side, we've got King. As you've noticed, they went for the 6-drop King. You don't really want to Dawn -2 heavily in this deck. We do not have ways to gain Dawn as Kaido does in terms of Onigashima, so we have to be a little bit careful how we do it. We're not only Dawn -ing here, we're Dawn -ing here, and we're also Dawn -ing on the Blast Breath. So we have to be careful. We can't afford to play the 7-drop King, although he's probably a good inclusion into this deck as a very slow or low amount, but this deck, as it is, this is the, sorry, just to finish off, this is the deck list. It feels so good at dealing with aggro that you might not even need King. You just have to play smart and hit the pieces that you need. Again, most important pieces is some sort of starter with Miss All Sunday, starters being your blue spells, and you should be off to the races. If it's not Miss All Sunday, a Desert Spada can get you there, Baroque Work can cycle through your deck, Bond Clay can get you to the Baroque Work, which can then cycle into the pieces of All Sunday, which gets you to everything else in the deck, and then we're off to the races. So I've been very pleasantly surprised just with how Purple has been treating me, or not treating me, but just going in the shop. The way when I've played it, it's felt good. When others have played it, they've had a lot of success. And honestly, guys, this deck just gets better and better. When the film structure deck comes out, they get a real finisher, which is kind of what the deck is missing. Our big finishers are King and Crocodile at this point in time. But in the future, we get cards like Douglas Bullet, which just allows us to end the game once we have completely established board control. So if anything, this deck is just only going to get better. So I hope you guys take a good look. I know you guys have been asking for it, but this is a monster, and I hope you enjoy it, playing it at your locals and terrorizing people with the control deck of OP01. As always, guys, thank you so much for your support. Leave a comment down below if you liked the video, a like if you will, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. All of that really helps out, and I appreciate you guys as always. See you in the next one.